Kristaps going forward? When's he having surgery, and do you expect him to be ready for camp next year?
Yeah, Kristaps is still in the middle of consulting with some different doctors and specialists, and but we anticipate surgery will be soon, and then we'll have more of an update for timeline of recovery after the surgery as usual.
And what's the priority for you guys going into the draft? You got 30, you got 54. What sort of things are you looking at there in terms of kind of keeping the roster sustainable long term beyond this year?
Well, I think there's a lot of moving parts to keeping this roster sustainable beyond this year, but specifically to this year is we've got a lot of guys back. It will be hard for any draft pick to crack our rotation when healthy. And so, we'll think about how we can best continue to invest in young players and their development and growth, with the reality that, if we're able to bring, if we're able to continue to move forward with this group, that, these guys are going to be on the court. So, this will be a good opportunity again to bring in somebody who we think will help us down the road.
Brad, you're obviously limited in what you can do because of the second apron. How much does that impact the 30th pick, and how much does that impact your offseason?
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons why last year's was the time to trade, because of that was the time we could aggregate, and that's a big part of this right now, that you're over the second apron, you can't aggregate in trades. So, in both of our major trades last summer, that was a part of it. So this kicking in is, it'll be interesting to see how it affects the league. Are there a lot less trades? That will be interesting to follow and look back and study over the next couple of years. But, as far as the picks go, if the right person is available at 30, then we will take them. And if we have a couple of people that we think are still the right person, then we'll see what our options are and what kind of flexibility we have. But, I anticipate picking a couple picks, and, whether they're on roster or two-way, and investing in young players. I just, if they come in and crack our rotation, then they're really good. And that'll be a good thing too.
Brad, Joe took a pretty unique approach to building chemistry and communicating with the players, from showing them movie clips or footage of killer whales and stuff like that. What did you think of his approach? Did you expect him to take that kind of approach when you first hired him, and how do you feel like that paid off?
Well, yeah, I mean, every coach does it their own way, right? He did all that stuff last year, and he continued to build on it this year. And I think that's just who he is he's got a unique way of thinking about team and building an inspiration to the team about what needs to happen when we're on the court, and using different examples of different walks of life. I was sitting in front of Jalen yesterday at the baseball game, and Jalen said, Joe's going to take something from this, and we're going to be like, playing shortstop or something next year to get ready for a game. But that's just the way he thinks. I love it. His brain is wired. It's always on. He isn't afraid to, try things. He isn't afraid to, take a day and not do only basketball-related things, to make sure that he maybe hits a chord with people on things that can, help resonate for the whole team. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we all love that about him. He's really creative, and he's got a really high motor. Like, that's the thing about Joe that, probably haven't talked about enough is he does all the basketball stuff too, but his motor's always running. Like, he is always on. So I actually hope he takes a couple weeks here and, can turn it off, because it'll be back on soon.
Hi, Brad. We saw you at a couple of Providence games over the past couple of years, and I'm asking about a couple draft prospects, if I may. Devin Carter and Tyler Kolek out of the Big East. How do you see their games translating to the NBA? They're in this draft class now.
Well, since we're a day before the draft, I'm not going to comment on draft prospects, other than to say those guys are both really good players. It's cool. Anytime you have players representing the region, the area, and there will be more from this New England area that people are talking about, obviously, with UConn's guys. Like, that's always a fun thing for the region. And, it's a great moment for any kid tomorrow night that gets drafted, 1 through 60 or 1 through 58 or however many picks there are. And then, however many handful more get picked up on 2 ways. That's a great moment. But as I've told every draft workout that's been here, that'll either be the moment or the start of better things. So they have to all focus on the work starts now, the journey upward starts now. You don't want that to be the highlight. And I think that, the guys you mentioned and many of the other potential draft picks have that mindset.
Brad, obviously the last week's been, I'm sure breathtaking for you in terms of the adulation after winning. When do you flip the switch to like, can we do it again? It used to be during post-game interviews, they'd ask the coach, can you guys repeat right after they won? And now, obviously it doesn't happen much anymore, but there is that kind of, you guys are favored to repeat. When do you kind of start, or have you started, or have you never stopped trying to prepare this team for next year?
I mean, Gary, like the adulation means nothing in all sincerity. Like and the scrutiny doesn't mean much either, right? We gotta realize we live in this world of instant reaction. And if you hang a banner, everybody's going to talk about how great you are, and if you don't, they're going to talk about how much you stink. And so, like at the end of the day, if you tie your spirit to that, if you tie the way you work to that, if you tie your approach to that, then you're just going to ride a roller coaster it's not worth the journey, right? So I think the most important thing is you appreciate the people you're with, you try your best to bring out the best in that, you try to have the best season you can, and you just keep doing it. Like, I don't think any of us, the day after, as much as we all were excited and celebratory and everything else, you're always thinking about what this means for what's next. I think that's just, maybe that's the coach in me, or maybe that's just my age, but you say favorite. I don't know what the league's going to look like in 3 weeks, so who knows? But I know this: human nature is going to be another huge opponent. All of our opponents, when you win, the other 29 teams target you, and it's a different thing to come back from to then be great again. But that's a fun challenge too, and. The closest thing that I've ever lived to it is in 2010 when I was at Butler. We were treated like we won for 3 or 4 months. And all those pats on the back, like, they go away pretty fast. And so you just got to stay true to yourself, be around good people, try to then make sure you all come back ready and hungry, and realize it's going to be hard. And so, but I see a lot of joy and fun in that challenge too. And so I'm looking forward to it. I know our guys will be looking forward to it. Coaches looking forward to it. You talk about Joe, like Joe probably has his plan for the first 3 practices written out, right? So anyways, I think that's just part of it.
Brad, at the trade deadline, you mentioned that you can add to a team, but when you do it, you either add or subtract by that addition. It feels like 1 through 18, the character of the guys on this team was a huge reason why you guys were able to accomplish your goal. When you're heading into the offseason, how do you balance that? You can't add and then subtract by the process of adding, and also, accounting for the character of these guys. Like, how difficult is the balance between that and just getting guys you think would be a good on-court fit?
Well, I mean, it's just part of being a good on-court fit. I think good teammates have a lot of common characteristics. For us, having a baseline of talent and competitive character that is good enough to be in the mix and sustainably in the mix is really important, but only if those guys are good people and good teammates and are self-aware enough to know they need each other. And I think that that's what this team was great at. I think everybody, 1 through 18 knew that the guy next to him really mattered, and they were really bringing it, whether they were playing in the game or not. And that all added up. And I think it goes beyond the 18. I think it's they understand the role that an analytics team plays. They understand the role that a video coordinator and his team plays, the chef plays, the strength and conditioning people play. They get it. That's part of being on a team. And if people start chipping away at that because they don't have the right character, that can really hurt you. And so we're very fortunate to have had in the past and to continue to have, really good character people.
Hey, Brad. Obviously, you assembled teams in college, but is there a different feeling when you assemble a team in the NBA and win rather than the team you were given?
I don't know. I mean, listen, in college, when I first started at Butler, we had 3 assistant coaches and a person that did travel and maybe a manager. Like, we had 6 people. Here we have, with the players, I think 75 or 76 in the building. I think regardless, you have a role to play and you play it as well as you can. If you're the person in college that has to assemble and coach the team, that's what your job is. And if it's here where it's one or the other, then that's what your job is. And you just try to do it as best you can. And as far as like the fulfillment in winning, it's who you share it with more than anything for me. I mean, that's the best part of it.
Hey, Brad. Obviously everybody was extremely happy for Al to be able to win. Mm-hmm. He waited the longest, but I think you might have been second longest in terms of coming here in 2013. So how much did it mean to you to win that championship, to reach the mountaintop? And you've come close in your career in college as well. Does it change you at all to be able to accomplish that and know you can accomplish that?
No, I'm fortunate enough to know most everybody in basketball, and obviously several of them have been through this, right? And I think the resounding theme is that it absolutely, the joy of it is real. Getting a chance to experience a parade is real, but the reality is it's all pretty hollow if you don't have the people around that you enjoy being with. And so this feels great, but I don't think any more of a team that wins it than a team that comes close. Like, it just, and I think that if anything, again, it gives me, it makes me feel better about those groups that gave us all they had to get us, these baby steps towards getting this opportunity. And I hope they all feel a part of it in some way. I was asked yesterday on a podcast, like, the coming close at Butler, you don't think any less of that group because we just didn't get over the hump. When you're in it, those are the relationships you have. Those are the people that you're around, and you'll have that forever. You have this forever, and the only difference is it'll be etched in a banner so that, when we're dead 60, 70, 80 years from now, people can try to figure out with whatever search engine they're using at that time who was on the team.
Joe talked about how he had felt during the season at some point that the team was going to win and that they were going to do it at home. Did you have a moment during the regular season or during the postseason where you felt like this is the team, we're going to get it done? Or was it just one of those things where you knew that there were so many factors where until the final buzzer sounded, you didn't really know if it was going to happen this season?
I just tried to this is going to sound, you're not going to believe it. This year with this group, I just tried to enjoy the team. Whatever it took us, it was going to take us. We knew we were good. We knew we had a chance. Been a part of really good teams that have had a chance that didn't get it done, and in large part because the other teams are really good too. And so we have a lot of respect for the opponents, how hard it is, and we could easily, have come back for Game 5 against Indiana and been down 3-1. Instead, we swept and had 10 days off and got ready for the finals. But that's the margin you're talking about in these, and you just have. I think when you lose it, you have to have that perspective, and when you win it, you have to have that perspective. At least in my seat, I know that's not fun, but that's truly the way I feel because it's so hard to beat these teams.
Brad, just different end of the spectrums question. One, just being together as a team. You talked about the parade, but how was Fenway? And also, do you guys do studies with all your numbers and everything of minutes played when it comes to the past, like 3 seasons, for instance, with finals, Game 7 East Final, and finals, as far as what you do in this coming season?
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's an enormous part of our stuff. And hey, I've talked a lot about, there were those of us that went into the bubble and played all the way till October, and then you added another season right behind that, and another season, and all of those years, even when we lost in the first round, we played till June 1st because the next year was late, right? So all of those years have, in a lot of ways, run together. So what they do in these 3 months in between is important. And then how we manage each guy individually. We've got a couple guys that'll be playing in the Olympics, how we manage them when they come back. We've got a couple of guys that played a lot of minutes this year, how we manage. We've got a lot of guys that didn't play much. How do we ramp them up and get them so that they're ready for the long haul? They haven't really been through the demands of a season when they did play, all right? The Jordan Walshes and Jaden Springers and Nemi and people like that, right? So how do we use all of this time wisely to manage it appropriately? And I thought Joe and his staff and our medical staff, led by Phil Coles, did a really good job all season long. The Kristaps injury against Miami was one of those things, and the Kristaps injury here in the Dallas series was one of those things. But I thought he was managed well. I thought that obviously Al was managed great, and Al looked fresh all the way through the playoffs, played great for us, and everyone else. And it's a fine line. And Phil is really good about this at saying, we can't go into the last 6 weeks of the season and rest guys and get ready to play playoff basketball. Like Tatum's got to hit 40-plus minutes a few times in that. Brown's got to hit 40-plus minutes a few times in that so that they're ready for that physical toll. So it's not just about managing them backwards. It's managing them upwards. And all that stuff is, yeah, I guess we have a lot of math and science and all that stuff. Fenway was great. It was awesome. It's great when I go there, put a hat on and sit in the Green Monster with my family and nobody knows we're there. But it's pretty amazing to be out on that field. I've been on that field twice before games. The last time it was during Poppy's last week, and that was pretty special too. But then just being with the guys, and I think a lot of guys went their own way, or will be in the next couple of days. A couple guys going home where they live in the off season, and other guys starting to go elsewhere. So that was kind of a nice last hurrah.
Brad, regardless of how the rest of the league goes, you guys are still going to be in the mix for the next few seasons, and that's going to be, like you said, a challenge.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of people. You got guys going to the Olympics. You're going to be around Steve Kerr. What kind of conversations are you looking to having with other people that may have been in similar situations about short turnarounds and managing the success and trying to replicate that? What kind of conversations like that are you hoping to have?
Yeah, our turnaround's not that much different than it was 2 years ago. We just lost. So, maybe our guys stayed up a little later this week than they would have 2 years ago, right? But they'll recover from that. I think, we'll have all those conversations on how to, again, I think you want to, all the stuff that showed true in the team and how the team pulled together and how the team responded to good and bad all the way through the season will be tested at a greater level next year, and we're all really well aware of that. And so how do we, mentally prepare for that and emotionally prepare for that? And also, we'll see how these injuries play out and when guys are going to be back and all that, and, try to put the best foot forward that we can for our team. But one of the things, and you said it early, that, Danny and I remember meeting early in my 10 years as a coach, because that first year was miserable. When we knew we weren't going to be very good, but it was miserable to go through. And it was just like, how can we find a way to be sustainably competitive and be in the mix? And that doesn't mean you're going to be in the last 4 teams standing every time, or the last team standing or whatever. But like, you go into playoff series and and believe that you've got a team that can win, if you play well. And that's a really good feeling, and we've been really lucky. And that sustainability, to me, started with the 2 picks, right? With Danny nailing Jalen and Jason, and us being able to be good while being able to make those picks and then build up. Those guys come here. They have great responsibility when they're playing right away. It's hard right away to be on the court, let alone be good. And from that point on, I think it's allowed us to be in the mix. But nothing's guaranteed. I mean, this league changes fast, and we're very aware of that.
One, how would you characterize this draft? Everybody's criticizing it, saying it's people haven't heard of half the players in it. What do you think of it, and can you get a quality player at 30?
I think so. I mean, all the statistical models and numbers would suggest that the lower down the draft you go and you get into the end of the first round or even the early second, the percentage likelihood of getting a person that really is impactful is pretty low, generally speaking. But I think that this draft is, whatever people think of it at the top, because I'm not really paying attention to that. I mean, I've seen all those guys, but I knew we weren't going to be picking up there. I think it's pretty deep once you get into the meat of it, probably like normal. Now, I do think that as you get later on into the second round, and I don't think this is going to change anytime soon, the advancement of NIL and how out of control that's gotten has really impacted the late 40s and 50s and post-draft and, all that type of stuff. Because there's a lot of people that went back that probably would be in that mix, but they just got huge paydays. They got, more than 2 ways. So that's kind of the world that we're living in now a little bit. I think that will be where the draft might be most impacted consistently over the next few years.
Trying to run it back. I mean, do you say to yourself, we have to do something differently? We have to ramp it up? We have to do exactly the same thing? How do you approach, you took a team to the national championship again after I'm sure you were not picked. You probably might not have been picked to win the league the next year, and you did it again. What is the approach the second time? Can it be the same, or does it have to be different?
Well, I think the guys that are part of the group that are back all have to understand that the challenge is greater, and the challenge because again, the target, human nature, all those things that are real, and then but. We also have to say, okay, sometimes you need a jolt from within, and we'll always evaluate how to make our team better, and we have the opportunity to tweak our team all the way up until February. Last year we ended up doing it in June and October, and then there wasn't as much to do once we got to February. We have an opportunity over the next 6 months to figure that part out, but I think we would be crazy not to say the character and the foundation of this team is right, and let's see if we can, be as consistent as we can, grow, develop, get better, improve, try some new things on both ends of the floor to add some juice and jolt that way, and then see if we can't pick up where we left off. So to answer your question, I don't anticipate major changes, at least early on, because I think this team deserves that.